If I told you the ancient Romans grew more food in their compact city gardens than many modern farms grow on acres of land, you'd probably think it's an exaggeration. But, you know, history and modern science prove it's true. While today's gardeners replant, fertilize and water endlessly, Romans built self-sustaining garden systems that ran almost on autopilot. They planted once and harvested for decades. They captured free energy from nature, used plants to fertilize each other, and conserved water in ways that would make modern irrigation systems look wasteful. These weren't just good gardeners, they were master engineers of abundance. And the best part? You can use their exact techniques in your own garden today. Let's dig into 7 Roman gardening methods that are so efficient, they'll completely change how you think about growing food. The Romans treated asparagus like a long-term investment, not a seasonal crop. They built permanent raised beds, sometimes waist-high, filled with composted manure and coarse sand for drainage. Into these they planted asparagus crowns about 8 inches deep, watered them generously the first season, and then largely ignored them. The result? Beds that produced tender spears every spring for more than 25 years without replanting. Modern gardeners often miss this trick because, you know, we tend to treat most vegetables as short-term projects. But asparagus, well, it really thrives on deep roots. The Roman method allows roots to grow massive and store energy year after year. To replicate it, simply dig a bed about 10 inches deep, mix equal parts garden soil, compost and sand, and then water with about 2 gallons per square yard right after planting. By the 3rd year, you'll harvest every spring. No replanting needed for decades. Romans didn't have synthetic fertilizer, yet their crops were lush and productive. Their secret was pairing plants that worked together naturally. They noticed that beans, peas and lentils helped grains and vegetables grow better. Today we know why. Legumes pull nitrogen from the air and fix it into the soil, feeding nearby plants. They also planted ground covers under fruit trees, plants like clover and vetch, to enrich the soil and keep roots cool. If you want to try this Roman wisdom, plant peas or beans before your heavy feeders like tomatoes or corn. When the legumes finish producing, cut them down and leave their roots in place. The bacteria in those roots will keep releasing nitrogen for months. It's free fertilizer, powered entirely by nature. If you've ever seen ruins of Roman gardens, you've probably noticed stones scattered between plants. Those stones weren't for decoration, they were for water conservation. Romans discovered that covering the soil with small rocks reduced evaporation dramatically. The stones absorbed heat during the day and released it at night, keeping soil temperature stable and retaining precious moisture. You can easily copy this ancient irrigation trick. Around fruit trees, herbs and perennials, spread a layer of smooth stones about 2 to 3 inches deep. Use river stones or rounded landscaping rocks so they don't compact the soil. Water once deeply, about 3 gallons per square yard, and you'll notice the soil stays moist for twice as long. In hot, dry climates, this method alone can cut your water use by nearly 50%. Now, the Romans didn't wait for spring to enjoy fresh vegetables. They built what they called hot beds, which were, well, natural heating systems that kept their crops alive right through the winter. The process was honestly both ingenious and simple. They'd dig a pit about 3 feet deep, fill the bottom half with fresh horse manure mixed with straw, and then water it thoroughly until it was moist but not soggy, about 2 gallons of water per cubic foot. After that, they'd top it all off with a foot of rich garden soil. As the manure decomposed, it produced this gentle heat that warmed the soil above. The Romans managed to grow lettuce, herbs, and even cucumbers during the coldest months, all without using greenhouses. And, this technique still works just as well today. Once the heat fades after 4 to 6 months, the decomposed manure becomes nutrient-rich compost, perfect for your next season's crops. So, 1 bed, 2 benefits, just as the Romans intended. Urban Romans didn't have sprawling orchards, but they still managed to grow tons of fruit. Their answer was Espalier, the art of training fruit trees to grow flat against walls or fences. A tree grown this way actually produces more fruit per square foot than a naturally shaped one, and it takes up almost no space at all. To try it, plant a young apple or pear tree about a foot from a sunny wall. As it grows, tie branches horizontally to wires or trellises, pruning any vertical shoots. This shape forces the tree to produce fruit instead of more branches. Within a few years, you'll have a wall that feeds you, a method Romans perfected 2 millennia ago that modern gardeners are only now rediscovering. Romans loved herbs not just for cooking, but for medicine and fragrance. Instead of replanting every year, they built perennial herb gardens that renewed themselves naturally. They planted hardy herbs like rosemary, sage, thyme, oregano, lavender and mint in raised or sloped beds filled with sandy soil. Once established, these plants thrive for decades with almost no care. To recreate this, pick a sunny, well-drained spot and plant these herbs about 18 inches apart. Water weekly the first summer, roughly 1 gallon per plant, then gradually reduce watering. After the first year, they'll thrive on rainfall alone. Many will self-seed, spread, and perfume your garden season after season, just as they did in ancient Rome. The Romans understood something most industrial farmers, kind of forgot. Planting the same crop in the same spot year after year, it just kills the soil. They practiced crop rotation based on plant families. Heavy feeders like cabbages and lettuce were followed by legumes, then root crops, and then, light feeders. This simple rotation restored nutrients and prevented pests from taking hold. To apply it today, just divide your garden into 4 zones. In the first year, plant nutrient-hungry vegetables like tomatoes or squash. Then, in the second year, switch over to beans or peas. In the third year, move to root vegetables. Think carrots or onions. And in the fourth year, rest the soil with herbs or leafy greens, then simply repeat the cycle. With this pattern, your soil never runs out of nutrients, and honestly, you'll notice fewer pests and diseases. The genius of Roman gardening lies in one principle: work with nature, not against it. They built permanent systems, perennial beds, living fertilizers, and natural irrigation that really did most of the work for them. Modern science has proven these ancient methods weren't just efficient. They were sustainable and regenerative. So here's your challenge from Timeless Crops Haven. Choose one Roman technique this season and give it a try. Maybe it's a stone-mulched bed, a hotbed for winter greens, or perhaps an Espalier fruit tree by your fence. Master one, then add another. Within just a few seasons, you'll have a garden that feeds you abundantly with half the effort. If you found this guide inspiring, make sure to subscribe to Timeless Crops Haven and share it with fellow gardeners. Let's bring back the Roman way, where gardens last generations and abundance never ends.